Daisy here with another layout for Shimmerz Paints design team. Don't forget that if you're going to order from the shop, that you can leave my name in the comments of your order and you'll get a fun little freebie. And who doesn't like free stuff, right? So I started out with this background piece of paper. It's just a white paper that I gessoed, and I am using my StazOn ink, which is important when you're using mixed media, that you use something that will be permanent and not smear when you add mixed media to the top. I'm using these Altenew stamps, and I am just using the leaf ones, and then this little, I don't know, cotton something little hanging thing that I'm going to stamp around in a couple of places here, just adding some clusters. I have these cut files that I don't recall where they're from, but they're layered flowers. And I used the Heidi Swap Carefree collection and cut them out of that. I also did some rolled flowers out of one of the pattern papers from the Carefree collection, and yeah, I love how they go together. This is just one of the solid papers that come out of the project pad. And I also, so you see that paper that I have in the background, that's the one that I use to color match my paints to. And so I'm going to be using, I think, 4 different paints today. But I'm just working out where I want my stamps to go. They're not really the main focus or anything. A lot of them get covered up, but I just thought it'd be fun to have a little extra in the background. So I am using the 3 colors that I just showed you here: dandelion, piggy pink, pink champagne is the pink, and lapis dance is that kind of blue teal one. And then the other one, the green one that I use here, is called Keep Palm. And I'm just adding the water to these because there's 2 creamies and 1 excuse me, 1 inklings, and these ones come dry and you have to add your own liquid to it. You have to be careful, don't add too much liquid to it, because then you have to wait a little bit for the pigment to get where you want it. So if you water it down too much, obviously it'll be too watered down. So just think about that. My dog is sneezing. But anyhow, just using my drying tool here to make sure that I am drying in between layers, because I do not necessarily want these colors to run together. They do reactivate when you get them wet again, so they do run a little bit together, but I didn't want them to be a big muddy mess. So I dry in between each layer. And this one, the dandelion, I love this color so much, but it is very bright, so I do try to water this one down just a little bit more. I'm using a really big brush and just kind of, I don't know, dabbing it around. I'm sure there's some official like watercolor term for what I'm doing, but I'm not an official watercolorer. I really have a lot of fun doing these backgrounds though. I actually make a lot of backgrounds that nobody ever sees because they don't turn out the way I wanted them to. So yeah, don't think that every time I do this, it's always a winner, because it's not even close, but I love how this one turns out. So just drying again, trying to dry in between. And this is where I'm going to use the green. So I didn't want it to splatter onto my layout, and I didn't want those little, if you spray too close, you can get kind of the extra spray, and I didn't want that to happen. So I was very careful to block when I sprayed to make sure that it didn't go onto the layout. And then I added water to it just to make it a little bit, just a little less pigmented. I wanted it to be a little bit lighter. And then I'm kind of mixing together these two colors. The blue is fantastic. Well, it's kind of a teal or a blue-green, but I think the colors mixed together are perfect. They match the collection perfectly. So I thought it would be fun to kind of mix them together. I do use some of them by themselves, but yeah. I didn't dry in between those two because I was fine with them running together. And now I'm just using a smaller paintbrush and doing splatters of the darker color. And then I'm going to dry that before I do any other splatters, because then they kind of go together and mix. And a lot of times, you know, some of the colors don't mix nicely together. Like I feel like the blue and the pink might be okay, but I think the green and the blue and the pink and the yellow all together would be a brown, probably. Yeah. Anyway, I am going to do splatters of the pink here. And of course, I didn't do a good enough job of washing off my brush, so I get some blue in there. So I want to share with you, so these paints, because you have to add the liquid, don't put the caps on tightly. You have to let them dry before you put the cap on. Otherwise, you can get a little bit of some mold growing in there. If that does happen, it's not the end of the world. All I do is I take a wet paper towel or a baby wipe and just wipe it off, and then use it. So if you are in a hurry and just want to put the top on, I usually stick them up on top of a shelf and let them dry completely before I put the lids back on them. Now I'm just kind of putting my flowers together here and just using some liquid glue, adhering them in the center. And I love how these layer together. I think they look so nice. And then I'm going to pull out the Shimmerz, and this is called Goldilocks, and this turns out to be the best thing I've ever done. So I was afraid it was going to ruin it, but I'm like, ugh, I'm just going to go for it and spray this directly onto the flower. Okay, spraying it all over. Now with the Shimmerz, it doesn't have pigment, it just has the Shimmerz in it. And then I'm like, okay, I gotta dry these because I went a little overboard. Watch how the petals curl. Oh, the one time that curling paper when it's wet turns out beautifully right here. So I highly recommend, 10 out of 10 for that technique. I did spray them quite a bit, so I am making sure that they are dry, and you can't really see there, but they are super shimmery. So now I'm taking some of the rolled flowers and putting them in the centers. That was kind of my plan to begin with, and then I am trying to figure out how I want to layer the rest of these. I did struggle a little bit with this, like where to put things on this layout. It was, I don't know, it seemed like a bizarre design for me. Not bizarre. It's different than what I usually do. And so I was really kind of like, oh, well, how am I gonna do clusters on here? Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this stuff. So it all works out in the end, but it did take a little bit of a journey to get there. So I'm just trying to work out here where I would want the flowers. And of course, you got to move them about 1,000,000 times, and they're probably going to end up in the same place. And here, I'm sorry, I lost some video, but I am using these Maggie Home thickers, and they're just a gold, beautiful color. And this beautiful picture of my youngest daughter when she was a baby. And so my title is going to be That's Sweet. I added that little butterfly up there, a little bow below her photo, and just some little leaf pieces just around to kind of spread the gold around. I thought it would work really well since I did the Goldilocks on the flowers to add gold to my layout. So just putting my photo down on a white background to make it stand out a little bit more. And of course I used a wonky cut of paper, so it was fun getting that straight. And then I'm going to adhere that down. I'm going to tuck it into the flowers a little bit. Oh, and I remembered I had some gold doilies that were the right color gold, so I decided to pull that in just really for a little bit in the background. I am going to use hot glue to stick these flowers down. I have learned that the rolled flowers do not like to stay stuck to the page unless you use hot glue. So I am going to town here with the hot glue. Fun little tip with that, if you get the little string things, you can use your heat tool to melt them to get rid of them faster so you don't have to pull them all off. I think that's something I learned from like Jen Scow or something a long time ago, but it really works. So just tucking that bow into that flower, and then I realized, oh, I forgot my doily, and I'm going to stick everything down using hot glue because, you know, it was there. So why not? And I'm gonna put some extra glue on my title here just to make sure that it sticks down. A lot of times things don't like to adhere to the gesso, so you got to be a little mindful of that, and make sure that you have enough adhesive. The Nuvo Deluxe adhesive that I use is amazing. It works so well. So, and now I'm going to add a couple of little heart stamps off of this Shimmerz stamp set, and I think I also come in with some sequins. I wish I would have done the heart stamping before I adhered down the flowers, but I didn't, so I'm gonna, you know, struggle with that, trying to get the stamps tucked into the flowers because I don't want them just out and about. But I really like how this turned out. It's different for me. I love the background. It turned out exactly how I wanted it to. Super happy with that. And yeah, these colors worked so well. And then that whole technique with the flower curling, I mean, come on. So excited about that. I'm just going to add some more sprinkles of the Goldilocks around just for that gold shimmer. I do get a little bit on the picture, but I just wipe it off and it's fine. Because again, it's just the shimmer, no pigment, so it was okay. And I think I'm just going to finish it off with some sequins, and then that will be the, I also outline the outside of the page, I'm pretty sure, with just a black pen. But again, don't forget that you can add my name for a fun little freebie with your next order. I hope you enjoyed this video. There will be a blog post with it as well with links to the products that I used. So check that out, and I will see you again next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.